Happy anniversary! This is Shift Weight Mastery's 20th anniversary, and I am so excited to share with you excerpts from interviews with 3 Shift graduates who have kept the weight they lost long term. I'm talking not just a few years, I'm talking 14 years, 9 years, and 6 years. And I just wanted to highlight for you some of their secrets to their success, the why and how they have kept their weight off for so long. Let's get under the lid of what it takes not only to release weight, but release it for the very last time. So grab some confetti and let's celebrate. Did you know that our struggle with weight doesn't start with the food on your plate or get fixed in the gym? 80% of our weight struggle is mental. That's right. The key to unlocking long-term weight release and management begins in your mind. Hi there, I'm Rita Black. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, weight loss expert, best-selling author, and the creator of the Shift Weight Mastery process. And not only have I helped thousands of people over the past 20 years achieve long-term weight mastery, I am also a former weight struggler, carb addict, and binge eater. And after 2 decades of failed diets and fad weight loss programs, I lost 40 pounds with the help of hypnosis. Not only did I release all that weight, I have kept it off for 25 years. Enter the Thin Thinking podcast, where you too will learn how to remove the mental roadblocks that keep you struggling. I'll give you the thin thinking tools, skills, and insights to help you develop the mindset you need, not only to achieve your ideal weight, but to stay there long term and live your best life. Hello, everybody. Come on in. I am celebrating. In the September of 2022, I am celebrating 2 decades of being in business, which I'm just, I'm pinching myself. I can't believe it. Time has flown by so fast. But yes, I am celebrating 20 years of my clinic doors being open for Shift Hypnosis. And I'm highlighting some interviews from students of the Shift Weight Mastery process who have kept their weight off long term. I think it's really amazing to hear where people are standing. It's not just what they have been doing to have that kind of success long term, but who they are being. You know, this is what we're very much into here in the Shift Weight Mastery process, is being masters of long-term permanent weight mastery. So just a little backstory, since I am celebrating, I started my hypnosis practice in 2002. And I had worked as a hypnotherapist before that for some other people for a company. And then I had somebody mentoring me. But I really, once I kind of got my, I guess, experience or, the ground beneath my feet, so to speak, I really was excited to head out on my own, and because I had a vision of how I wanted to help people release weight and how I really released weight and kept it off. So that was my mission, and that has remained my mission. I also help people stop smoking. So those are the only 2 things I really, really focus on, because those are my passions. I stopped smoking with hypnosis. I lost 40 pounds and have kept it off for over 25 years with hypnosis. So, hypnosis is my thing, but those 2 things are my deep love, my deep passion to help people shift from smoker to non-smoker, shift from weight struggler to weight master. And that's what I've spent my 20 years really, becoming an expert, really getting in the trenches with people in that way. But it was really scary to start a business of my own. I had owned a business previously many years ago, sort of like a little catering business, but I really had never opened my doors and had a clinical practice. And so that was really scary. But my desire to make a difference, my desire to work with people in this different way outweighed any doubts or fears. And my super supportive husband said, "Go for it, honey." So I opened my doors, and I remember the summer before I opened my business, I was learning about owning a business. Like I said, especially I'm here in California, so there's lots of things that you have to do, licenses to get, and everything all lined up. And I was reading this book, and I started my business when my daughter was less than 1 year old. And I remember laying on the bed in our bedroom, and it was like a July day, and was it June, July, but I was laying on my bed reading this business book, and she was sort of breastfeeding, and maybe too TMI, but she was, I literally was, taking her with me everywhere to get my business started. And so that one day I was just like laying in bed, breastfeeding her. And for those of you who know what it's like to get an infant to sleep, she was just dozing off. And I was so scared. I kept turning those pages of that business book because I was really engrossed in it. I really wanted to learn. But at the same time, I didn't want to wake her up. I just remember that so vividly. That was really one of those moments you never, ever forget. That was just emblazoned in my subconscious mind. So I thought I would share that with you. So yeah, I started with a little baby in my baby Bjorn. My husband and I went and painted my office. My daughter sat in her little baby bucket. And I was winging it. I was winging it as a business owner. I was winging it as a practitioner. But, I had learned from releasing 40 pounds and keeping them off. I'd been working with people, but I just, and I didn't want to wait for things to be perfect, right? I just wanted to go for it. And I believed in myself enough to know that I would figure it out, because I'll tell you, after taking 40 pounds off and keeping it off for a substantial period of time, I had already kept it off for a while, and I was taking it off after having my daughter. I had lost that weight pretty quickly. That gave me a lot of confidence to go out and take risks in my life in other ways. And that's what I'm always telling clients. It's like, when you have weight mastery, it gives you courage. It gives you confidence to go and do those things in your life, maybe that you were, holding back on. But I also encourage people to get going on those things before they even release their weight. So in the first years, I admit I was getting things down. And in the beginning, I had a different way of seeing people. I would see people for maybe 6 to 8 weeks in these single sessions that I was really focused on. I had cassette tapes. This was the 2002. Can you believe we were using cassette tapes, and CDs were taking off? I started my business at the worst time because cassettes were going out, CDs were coming in, and streaming hadn't even, wasn't even a thought. I started my business without a computer. It was all very analog back then. And this was also, people were in 2002 really suspicious of hypnosis. I got this line all the time: "Are you going to make me bark like a dog?" That was like, okay, yes, I'm not going to make you bark like a dog. Everybody asked me that. And I understand hypnosis might seem wacky or crazy or voodoo, but it's just such a powerful way to use your subconscious mind. But so some of the problems that I saw working with people in this 6 to 8 weeks trajectory was, they would come to my office, we would work, we would do some hypnosis, and off they would go, and they would listen to their CD, or their cassette, but there was something with that format that just didn't work for me. I was helping people focus on weight loss and diet and exercise, and that's all important. And I had learned from other people, this is the way you do it. This is how you help people lose weight with hypnosis. But I really felt like just focusing on diet and exercise wasn't enough. I really, really felt like the way I lost weight wasn't just about eating and exercise, but it was really about changing the way I communicated with myself. So what would happen when I was seeing people in this format is, people would commit in the beginning, but they would give up easily. They would let their life get in the way, or they would let other things take priority over their journey, their weight loss. So they, might get 3 weeks in, and then they, get sidetracked by their children or their job or something. And then they weren't able to stick with it long enough to really get the impact that hypnosis can have. I mean, it can have impact right away, but we really, for weight management, there are so many layers to weight management. It's a little different than stopping smoking. You can stop in one session. There's just so many layers to weight management. So it was frustrating. Like clients would be doing great, but then they would either give up on themselves or think, well, I've got this diet thing going, so they didn't think they need the deeper mindset piece, and they would let other things take priority in their lives. So I had to think, I was like, how do I change this? How do I make it work more in line with what I know would be impactful? So I really believed what we needed was this deeper immersion. The mind changes habit, and it can change a habit in 21 days. And I said, what if there's a really deep impact, rocket launch way to immerse people in the mindset of weight mastery, the skill set of weight mastery, that didn't take 6 or 8 weeks, but that was a more short term, but more intense, daily, getting a little bit every single day, just a little bit, not too much, but enough to make that impact. Much closer to the process I gone through, but this was even more accelerated, just like a rocket launch over 30 days. And based on what I had learned worked for me, talking to myself as an inner coach rather than a critic, and not just coming to see me in my office, but done through audio, so that they could do it every day and they could get that right amount of coaching and the right amount of hypnosis every day. The interesting thing was, around this time, there was some research that came out about audio hypnosis being as impactful as in-person hypnosis if it was done right. So I really was excited by this research, and I then went to work on creating and layering in these hypnosis sessions that would build upon themselves over a 30-day process. Now, I should have done this in the first place, being completely transparent, but I didn't know, and I didn't know. I was just trying to be the good girl, right? Like I was trying to say, okay, well, everybody else is doing it like this, so I'm going to do it like this too. But I kind of thought, well, maybe, I kind of thought that the model was more about money, the 6 to 8 weeks coming in and seeing somebody on that over that amount of time. It also gets expensive for people, honestly. So I also wanted something that was way less expensive, that people could come and it could have an impact. So, because one of the reasons I started my business wasn't just because I lost weight with hypnosis, but because my mom struggled so much with her weight. And whenever I thought about people, I thought about my mom. I thought about like how she struggled and how she had such a hard time. I watched her growing up, and that really did impact me. And I really did, want to reach more people. So that is how the 30-day Shift Weight Mastery process was born. A course that gives you an immersion into the mindset and skill set that you need to release weight at a rate you decide and keep it off permanently. And it's affordable. So that is what we have been using now successfully. That's been our mission all this time. And it's been such a privilege and honor to work with so many amazing clients and students, thousands of people over these 20 years. So many people struggle, not just from a lack of knowledge about weight loss. We all know how to lose weight, don't we? We struggle because we get stuck in these thinking patterns. It isn't about a lack of knowledge, but we are stuck in these patterns and beliefs and habits that are subconscious. And when you address those, but when you really address those deeper beliefs and habits and thinking patterns, then you can really walk the path of weight mastery for the rest of our life. So I have gotten to walk with a lot of brave and powerful people with them on their paths. And nothing brings me more joy day in and day out. It is hard. I'll be honest with you, and it can be frustrating, but man, there is nothing more beautiful than watching people who have struggled with weight their whole lives finally get mentally and physically free from that, there is nothing more gratifying. So it has been one heck of 20 years, and I am so glad that I took that risk. I'm so grateful to my husband for believing in me. I'm so grateful to my children for supporting me. My daughter, when she was 5 and 6 and 7 and really in that drawing phase, she drew all these pictures for Shift of like healthy vegetables and fruits and stop smoking signs. She made me the sign. It's like, don't smoke. How little kids are. But oh, it was so supportive. And I had them in my office for the longest time till they kind of like wilted and fell apart. So we are currently enrolling the live version of the online Shift Weight Mastery process, and I only do this twice a year. And the last day to enroll is October 5th, 2022. This is an online course with hypnosis and meditation and coaching to give you that rocket launch on your journey of weight mastery. And it can be done with the app. We now have an app that has all the hypnosis and meditation and coaching, so it makes it really user-friendly. Or if you're more of a tablet or desktop person, we have a course now that it's all online and really easy to use. There's 7 days of preparation, and then there's the 30-day weight mastery process. And day 1 is starting October 14th with the preparation starting on the 7th. And with me, so when I lead these, I'm not leading the day-to-day process. That's all already in the program. But what I'm doing is we have an online community that we have coaches who have been on the road before you, who have released weight. Many are maintaining their ideal weight. We also have me every week showing up for a Q&A and working on special things like emotional eating and night eating and carb mastery. We really do a deep dive into all of these things, and there's an energy and a synergy to a number of people going through this course together. Even if you aren't a group person, people really get caught up in it. It's a very contagious thing. And if you're somebody who needs momentum and who wants inspiration, there is something about this that's almost magical, that people really just come together and just get so much advancement on their journeys. And so I really hope that you will consider joining us. So check out the link in the show notes to see if you can make it. There's a discount and bonuses, lots of good stuff. So please consider taking that first step. I can't take that for you, but once you take that first step, I will be on the other side in the orientation video there to guide you through. So, okay, now one of the best teachers is hearing from other people how they make things happen. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pull some highlights from 3 interviews with 3 different weight masters, how they have maintained their weight. So I want to start with Jan Stevens, as she has now kept her 35 pounds plus off for almost 15 years. I mean, isn't that kind of amazing? She came to one of the very first Shift processes when I put them all together, and I started with a seminar and had this 30-day process. And she came with her friend Evelyn. Evelyn brought her because Evelyn had already released weight with me. I think she had already released about 30 pounds coming to see me individually. But she wanted to get in on the process, and she and Jan, so Jan released 35 pounds. Evelyn released, I believe, 60 pounds altogether, and has kept that off for 17 years. So, but this was back when the Shift, like I said, was a seminar and the 30-day process, but it wasn't online because there really wasn't an online then. There wasn't streaming. But when Jan came to see me initially at the seminar, she was very hesitant. She really didn't believe in hypnosis, but she was willing to go along with it because of her friend. And she also was just so sick and tired of dieting, nothing working. She was willing at this point to try anything. Jan was also wanted to just be healthy so she could travel and stay active. So here's Jan talking about one of the first things I think is so important, and that thing is commitment. Really making that deep decision to not go on a diet, but to develop herself with a new skill set of weight mastery.
This is it. I have to do something. And I am committed. I'm going to I'm paying this money. I'm going to make this program work.
Yeah.
And I had seen Evelyn have some success too. So that helped, and but like you talk about, commitment is everything.
Yes.
It's your own commitment to the program. You decide you're going to do it. But what's great about Shift, and with your program that was different, I'm getting off the hypnosis thing, is that you make it your own.
Yes.
You give us the skills, but you don't tell us you have to count calories, or you have to do this, or you have to exercise. You just say, these are the skills. This is the way it works.
Right. Exactly.
And like you said too, sometimes you don't do all the 9 skills.
No.
You pick out the ones that work for you. And as long as it's working for you.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important for those of you who are listening who may be new and don't know, all about the Shift Weight Mastery process. It's based on the 9 skills of weight mastery, which I didn't make up, but are really based on data research into what I would call the skill set of long-term permanent weight management. So what Janet's talking about is, as with any skill set you learn, you aren't always using all of the skills at the same time, but that you have ones that work, like that you're focusing on or working the best for you. And I think the main challenge most people have with diets is that diets are sort of these things that you go on and you're either good or bad on them, rather than really seeing weight management as skill building, which is what we focus on. And using hypnosis as a way to get your mind, which might probably more than likely have resistance, have bad beliefs and habits, to start to shift your beliefs and habits around that. Right. So when we commit, there is no going back. When we're just trying to lose weight, the brain really doesn't believe us. It's kind of like a kid seeing his parents saying no, but really not saying no. The brain doesn't take losing weight or the journey very seriously. I mean, haven't you noticed that when you double down and you are committed with 100% of yourself, it isn't just what you're doing, it is who you are being. There is just no room for anything else in your mind. Your mind is focused, and there's a power in that you don't get when you're trying. So trying to do anything, I don't believe, is very successful. At least in the years that I've been doing what I do over these 20 years, the people who get the success are the people who commit. Okay, so now the next question for Janet is she shares one of her keys for maintaining weight. You've gone through a lot. I remember when you came into the shift, you were working and you were very social. Like, I know you and your husband were traveling, and I know you're still traveling. I know we had COVID, so I know you weren't traveling last year. But that's what I think is such a testimonial to your shift and your weight maintenance, is that you went through retirement, you traveled the world, you've been very involved in a lot of different things. You're very social, and you've managed to keep not 30 pounds off, but you were telling me you've released even more weight. And I'm sure people are dying to know, what do you think for consistency and longevity with weight management? What are the things that you think have been the most helpful for you? Not just from Shift, but just from your own life experience. If you were to say, what were the things that have made the difference then, before you embarked upon your weight mastery journey? What are the things that have been working the best for you?
I'm one of those, me, it's a lot of consistency. Mm-hmm. I'm a person who weighs myself every day. Mm-hmm. And I, try to stay the scientist and not get upset about it, but like it helps me stay on track. That's what gets me. I have problems on vacation.
Uh-huh.
Myself every day.
Uh-huh.
And I feel it gives me a sense of control.
Right. So what you're saying, and this is, and I'm just going to stop and pause and say this for our listeners. What Janet is talking about is like it's not a skill of weight mastery, but what is a skill is staying on top of the facts.
Right.
And because I think a lot of people shy away from weighing themselves because, getting on the scale can be an emotional experience, especially if the news isn't good.
Sometimes, I'm like, oh.
But what we learn in the shift is that, and again, this has been consistent throughout all the data. People have managed their weight over time is weighing yourself. And I know there's a whole school of thought of like, don't weigh yourself, throw away your scale and everything. But I think the difference is the way we weigh ourselves isn't from am I good or am I bad? Does my weight say that I'm a good person or a bad person? But it's really more as a scientist, because we really look at the science of weight release. And when you are in the driver's seat, then you have the control. So weighing yourself is part of this. So I love that has been part of your consistency piece. Okay, so you can see that part of her strategy from a mindset perspective is to stay in science mode. So critical. We often run our weight loss from this place of emotions, good or bad. Am I being good or am I being bad? So using data, as the studies show, the studies into long-term permanent weight mastery shows, helps because it keeps you centered in facts and learning. Okay, so now here Janet and I discuss trigger foods and how managing them is also a part of a long-term journey. Well, yeah. I think the thing is that what you're talking about is you've created a way of eating that you own and that you love. Like I don't tell people stop eating bread, or I don't say people don't have desserts, but there another skill that, again, across the board with people who have been successful is what we would call stimulus control. And that's what Janet's talking about, is if it's a trigger for you, then why would you have that in your environment? Because your brain is always going to be thinking about that food. You're always going to you're going to have to be managing it in some way. If you don't have it in your environment, you don't have to manage it. And for a lot of people who do the shift, and I know they find out that certain carbohydrates make them hungrier, make them think about food more. And so it's not like you can't have bread, but they find that when they eat a lower carb diet, they aren't thinking about food anymore. They are able to eat fewer calories and not feel like they're missing out, but they can still have things like dessert and things that work for them when they make that work for themselves. So
I said, I keep it out of the house. I will allow myself to have bread maybe when we go out once in a while, but I mean, like not the whole bread basket, but
right.
It's not in my house calling my name,
Right. Yeah. I mean, like life's too short to be thinking and obsessing about food. Walking by the cupboard and going, oh, should I eat that bread? Should I not? Should I have that treat? Should I not? There are plenty of things, like you said, that you can eat that you love. Yes. You can have in your house. So you can see that there's a strategy that she has around eating, something that she is owning, but it's not a diet. But what she has done, and I hope you heard from her speaking, she has just internalized what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes I really feel like what knowing and internalizing what doesn't work is as important, or if not more important, than knowing what does work. All right, now next we're going to talk about something you're going to hear in all three masters, the key to inner communication with long-term success. I think that's another shift I wanted to ask you about, is like the mindset piece, like, maintain your weight all these years. I know that you've kind of cultivated a powerful inner coach within yourself. How did that, I guess, what would the question be that I would want to ask about your inner coach? It's like, over the years, over these 13 years, would you say that your inner coach relationship has stayed consistent, or do you think it's gotten more powerful? Do you think, you and your inner coach have become more the same person as you've gone along? Like, in the beginning, in Shift, FYI, people who are not familiar with the program, we really get you communicating more powerfully with yourself by cultivating this idea of an inner coach, this part of you that you learn to trust and respect that keeps you sort of on track. So your relationship with your inner coach, Janet, like, how did that relationship evolve?
Actually, this is one of my favorite parts of Shift.
Uh-huh.
It's like an awakening. You always feel, and you've heard about the inner child and all this stuff, but you really woke it up for me in the education that you did for us in that first seminar. And I was so excited and thrilled to learn about the rebel, the inner critic. And I understood the concept you're starting to say about the inner coach. Yeah. But what I learned is to integrate them all. They're all parts of me. Mm-hmm. And what I learned through Shift is that I have to honor what that rebel wants.
Yeah.
And I have to be grateful and thankful for what my critic is trying to do for me. Maybe not in a very nice way, but
right.
He taught us as our inner coach how to deal with them.
Right. To manage them.
Yeah, if the rebel's saying, I want that cookie, and you're just like, no, you can't have that cookie. No, just shut up, rebel. It's going to niggle at you.
Right.
The rebel is not going to shut up. But if you say, okay, I hear you. You want a cookie. Let's see. How much of that cookie would you really need to have?
Right.
And you taught us this, and it was just it feels to me like a miracle. You said, if you said, the rebel will answer, well, maybe half, and I'll be damned, you're satisfied with half.
Exactly.
It's a miracle. It's like, yeah, and that's what the inner coach does, is like shows respect for what the rebel wants and say, I'm not going to say no to you all the time, but let's just be reasonable.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the critic. And this was harder for me, but because I think my rebel was stronger, but my critic was there all the time, but I didn't really recognize it because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I thought, and it took me a long time. And you taught us to say, like, you're taking care of me. I appreciate it that you're looking out for me, but like, I got this. It's okay.
Right. Or maybe we don't need to go about it quite as extreme as you want.
Yeah.
We can figure out a different way.
Right. And having that conversation, it's funny. It's like, I don't feel that my inner coach is even stronger than my rebel or my critic. We just all work together.
I love that.
We just all work together because you're not going to just be your inner coach and those are gone.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen,
I think the thing that for consistency for long term, I think what you're talking about is very key, is like, you are always going to have a rebel. You are always going to have a critic. Those voices don't go away, but you learn to manage them. And I think your inner coach really gets very good at, one, recognizing those voices, two, being able, it's like coming in and being a nanny for a family. You got to learn the kids and what they want and they don't want, then you can...
Yeah, if I named sounds funny, but if I named my inner coach anything, it would be the mom. Kind, loving mom.
Yes.
I mean, that does a really good job, not like the critic mom. It's like the mom goes, honey, what do you want? I hear what you're saying.
So you can see how important learning to create that inner communication system is, led by that inner coach. So Janet had some last words for us.
I remember when I first had lost my weight, I felt this is magic, but then I realized, no, I'm working it. But my mindset makes it easier. So that's what makes it feel like magic. But it's
Right.
then you come into problems, and you're like, oh, what the heck happened here?
Well,
But
I think the distinction of what you're talking about, because I definitely think that it's a transformational journey, and the transformation isn't about what you're doing, but it's about who you're being, and that you're creating something rather than taking something away. I think the main thing with our fear about diets is like it's like, oh my gosh, you're taking away my food, and you're taking away. And I think you're a creative person, Janet, and weight mastery is a creative journey because you're always creating.
well, the other thing too is, so the program, what sold me on your program in the beginning too is permanent weight loss. That's what I was. I'm a great dieter. I can lose weight so easy. But it's the yo-yo dieter, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Right.
And I just, because of the hypnosis, because of the mindset and everything, this is it. This is the last time I'm releasing weight. That's it. It's over. I'm done with it. But like I said, you work it. But like I just feel I'm never going to gain all of it back.
Right.
Like I did many times in my life. And I hated that, and I hated that I was a yo-yo dieter. But one thing I will compliment myself on: I never gave up.
You kept going, and they say like the people who are masters like yourself, a lot of them gain and lose over 250 pounds before they finally kick it into gear and get to that place. Thank you, Janet, so much. So you can see how she has been on this powerful journey. And did you hear how she has owned her success? She is never going back. And you know what is so cool? Janet became a licensed groove dance instructor in her late 60s, and now she's in her 70s, and she is just this amazing, healthy leader for others in her life and in her community. And that is what's so beautiful. There's so many graduates of the Shift who have gone off in their lives and have studied nutrition or have been coaches or just helping other people themselves just by the journey they've gone on, gave them that confidence to take the risk to go out and make a difference in the world in the way they want to make a difference. So you can see she changed who she was and how she was thinking in the path of her life. I'm so proud of you, Janet. I love you. Okay. And now on to Julie. Julie released over 37 pounds nearly 7 years ago now, and Julie's used to struggle. She had struggled for many years with yo-yo dieting and the old starting over tomorrow syndrome. Now, as a really busy mom of two, her struggles included managing emotional eating and stress eating. And she started the Shift Weight Mastery process and really saw that she had to ditch the diets and focus on making a lifestyle change, starting with her mind and moving out from there. I think that we usually do it the opposite way, starting with the diet and trying to make the impact with the mind. But we've really got to start with the mind first. And because she focused on her mindset and also changing her environment, her weight release became easier and has lasted all this time. So as we'll see, too, Julie learned to create and then lean in on her inner coach to create and keep her success.
Self-coaching really, I think, is big for me. Right. And kind of talking myself out of making these, quick decisions. I think what comes to mind is, are you going to eat over this? I hear that a lot. I get that from, well, I know that's your line, but I use that. Are you really going to eat over this?
Right. So what she's referring to is like a self-coaching line, like, am I going to eat over this? So like if we have something happen to us, like we're pissed off with somebody or something bad happens or something that would normally make us just impulsively go, oh, I need to comfort eat or I need to eat over this. We start to protect ourselves. We start to say, well, am I going to eat over this? Because if I am, I need to kind of self-correct my thought processes so I don't need to eat over it and I can actually take care of it and keep the food separate from my emotional life. And that is huge. And then I don't have to. And if we do eat something, go, okay, forgive myself, not Oh, screw it, blew it, start.
Right.
So I love that. And would you say that that also then, because I'm assuming that that has translated into your being able to stay consistent these 5 years with your weight release?
Yes, absolutely. One other thing I wanted to mention was the whole idea of that, we learn and shift that it's not a diet.
Right.
Because a diet, you feel deprived, and it's temporary. So I'll eat diet, you eat the grapefruit,
You'll
all
eat
day.
whatever.
And then I'm going to order a pizza when it's over. But when I look at this as more of a lifestyle change, um, and this is just how I have to eat, and now I want to eat. I feel so much better eating that way.
Right. Yeah.
That has helped me a lot. That I don't see it as I'm going to starve myself for a week and then
Right.
binge.
Well, I think what you're talking about, and I think that was something that I wanted to point out to people, which I think is really important, is that when we are struggling with our weight, we have a set of thought processes and habits that perpetuate themselves unconsciously. So we aren't even aware that they're going on. We're trying to be good, but all these other sort of factors are just very powerful underneath it. Then we go through a process, and like what the Shift Weight Mastery process is, kind of brings everything to the forefront. We kind of get this awareness. um, we're not only aware, but now we're starting to get our power and be able to self-coach ourselves through that. And now someone like you, Julie, who's been, thoughtfully self-coaching them yourselves, and just to kind of point out, I want you to assure people that I think the fear people have is like, I'm always going to have to think about this as much as I do, like when I'm initially losing weight. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
no.
and what happens, and what you're saying, is that it becomes a way of life. And so it goes back into the unconscious. Like, obviously, you're still focusing on things, but you're focusing on things like, you have to brush your teeth and you have to do the laundry. We tend to our weight mastery like we would the other areas of our life, but it isn't this like super focus, but you took it out, you got aware, you made changes, and now a lot of what you do that allows you to perpetuate your staying at your ideal weight is um, your mindset, but it's become a lot of what you've been doing has become unconscious again, but
Yeah,
in the right way.
yeah, it's become a good habit.
Now, to take the weight off and maintain her weight, Julie also had to learn to have a different relationship with food. You mentioned to me before I turned on the recording some of the alterations you made in the way you eat over time. Like, it wasn't just like you said, I'm not going on a diet, but you started implementing changes in some of the ways that you eat. So maybe could you share with some people some of the dietary changes that you've made that have made a big difference for you?
Yeah. So, I don't eat a lot of carbs, but I don't totally cut them out either because if I do, I feel too deprived.
Right. Yeah.
So, so I have what I like to think of as like smart carbs,
Ooh,
good
I like that
carbs.
term.
Yeah, and I try to eat kind of a clean diet for the
Mhm.
most part, not a whole lot of processed foods. One thing I used to eat because I love fruit, and but I find I don't eat as much fruit as I used to,
Mm-hmm.
because that was something I felt. I don't know if you remember, but Weight Watchers used to let you eat all the fruit you
Oh,
want. Well,
of course. The point system
yeah,
lets you eat now all the chicken you want and all
yeah,
and all the
it's
vegetables you
it,
want. And
and it's crazy.
that
And
works.
and and what I do too is when I want, not that I don't eat fruit alone, but I try to pair it with a protein so
Mm,
that I feel full,
that
because
is smart.
I often don't feel satisfied with just a piece of fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think what
also,
you're talking about, I'm just going to point this out to other people who may not know this. A lot of you may know this, but what Julie is doing is slowing down the absorption of, like, she's changing the glycemic load of, I mean, like, and we don't get into super glycemic load stuff, but I'm just saying, like, when you eat a fruit, sometimes what will happen is it will spike your blood sugar and it will make you feel hungrier. often than more than satisfying your hunger, right? You might eat an apple, but then you might feel hungry an hour later. But if you eat that apple with like a little bit of peanut butter or a piece of cheese or something,
Mm-hmm.
then that's slowing down your body's absorption of the sugar, and so that, and then also adding in that stabilization from the protein. I think you were saying you're eating more protein in your diet, and protein is certainly something, even if you're a vegan, you probably understand that when you're eating a good quality protein, that it stabilizes your hunger. And I think a lot of times when we're out in that out of control eating, we're eating way more carbohydrates, which is just stimulating a part of our brain that makes us feel insatiable, and we think it's our fault, but it's not. It's just that we're turning on our brain chemistry to want to eat more and feel more hungry. And I think that was something that you found out in your journey, that, eating more protein and tuning in, like you started to notice, you could hear what Julie said was, I was eating fruit. Then I learned that when I ate fruit, maybe it was better to eat protein. And that was a self discovery that she made. And I think when you discover those things too, just by tuning in and getting present, like you said, like being present to your body, you get that lesson more than if you're on a diet and just being good. Julie gives some powerful advice here about how to approach the journey to weight mastery. What would be something that you would say to somebody just starting out on their journey, like any words of wisdom or inspiration, like if you remember back where you were, like what would you want to tell the Julie 5 years ago on your journey?
Yeah, well, it's like you said, it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And you have to be patient with yourself and be be kind to yourself. And what helps me is, early on I thought, oh, I've got 40 whatever pounds to lose. I found that very overwhelming.
Right.
So breaking it down to like a 5 or 10 pound goal, where
Mhm.
I know I have this long-term goal of 40, um, saying, okay, let's do 5, you know,
So you have
that helped me.
milestones.
Yes, yes. I mean, the big goal, but then the milestones, like, oh, let's see if I can get down 5. And then, we're not going to I didn't reward myself with food like I normally would have, but maybe something else,
Right.
like a pair of earrings or,
Right. Right. Yeah.
um, but
It's a
yeah,
And it's important to know that this journey, I think, is really fulfilling. Like, I don't think people, because we're so used to struggling and beating ourselves up, and we think of weight loss as such a not fun process. But I think what I want people to understand, and I think that you're kind of enlightening them to, Julie, is that it can be something very creative that you own, that this is a journey with yourself, and it isn't just about weight release, but it's about the, like, it's a love story with yourself, because you're building confidence, you're building trust in yourself, because when you do what you say you're going to do, like you said, like, I'm going to take this slow, I'm not going to, but I'm going to, head down the scale a little bit at a time, and you're able to do that, you build confidence, you build self-respect, and all of those things just build upon themselves with compounded interest till you have some, you're like, wow, it's been 5 years and I've kept my weight off, and that's amazing. Sure. How did that feel, having that length of success for you?
yeah, it definitely builds confidence. And I sometimes forget about it. Wow, 5 years ago I was different person.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I feel so much better. I have so much more energy,
Yeah.
and it's just a really great thing that, I'm proud of myself that I
You
did
should
this
be. Yeah.
for me. And I have 2 daughters, as you know, that, I'm setting a good example for And
absolutely.
I'm proud of that.
Isn't that wonderful? Thank you so much, Julie. Again, that was such a great interview. She was so vulnerable and shared so much. I'm really proud of you, Julie, and it's been so amazing to not only see your journey and to see how you've changed and become more confident out in the world, but just to blossom as a human being. It's just been really great to be a part of that. Last but not least is Maureen. She has released 40 pounds and kept them off for almost 10 years. Maureen came to Shift with a cane, walking with a cane, because walking had caused her so much pain. But Maureen shifted her mindset and turned her life around, getting into exercise, especially hiking. And now she loves her slim and strong body. During these 10 years, Maureen went through a lot of life changes, including just retiring, but she has managed to keep the weight off and used her powerful inner communication skills, not only for weight management, but to keep her sanity through some pretty tough times. So hear what she has to say about committing and self-respect that comes from shifting.
I guess the main thing was the big C word for me is control.
Right.
Like, I just felt like I was finally taking control of my life. I was taking control of my relationship with food, for sure, but also my alcohol use, my work habits, my relationships.
Yeah.
And it was just basically, it was.
Because I think the process, and not just the process, but you were at a place, and I think people get to a place where they have to sit in the fact that this is for them. And this isn't about looking great. It, like, you could and eventually look great in a bikini, but it's not about the superficial stuff. It's really about coming home to yourself and really, and people are floored when they start, because the Shift Weight Mastery process, correct me if I'm wrong, Maureen, but it's really about communicating with yourself in a different way.
Oh, totally. It's like you're forced to look deep inside.
Yeah.
There was no way around it. That was it. It was like do or die.
And connect with this powerful part of you that can manage your weight for the rest of your life. Like everybody has that part in them, but they just aren't in tune with it and tapped into it. But what I don't think you recognized, and you did, and I think people don't recognize and they're always shocked by, is when they start doing this kind of work and using their minds in a different way. Different things in their life change. It's not just their weight, it's their finances, it's their relationships. It's because you respect yourself. Finally.
That's exactly it. It's exactly it. It's totally more than the weight. I mean, it definitely felt better to look better. But even that, like, looking better to yourself makes you like, you know what? I am a better person. Like, I'm better than the way other people might treat me. I'm better than the way I've been treating myself. It's like, it really makes you look at your worth, your self-worth.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you've grown so much in this time, and you've really put yourself first in so many ways in your life. It's been beautiful to observe, and all of it hasn't been easy. Of course, it's been tough, but I think when you start to do that, just the power you get from that it makes it worth it.
Completely.
Now here, Maureen also talks a little bit about developing her relationship with her inner coach. Well, tell us about developing your inner coach, because that's a lot of the shift too, is really developing that powerful voice within yourself. Like, how your coach, your critic, your rebel, like, tell us how that your inner coach has developed over your weight mastery journey.
Well, I could tell you all about my critic. I am my number one critic.
Well, so how's your coach help you tame the critic?
Exactly. Because it's like, wow, I didn't even know I had a coach, but actually it's like, well, you've got that rebel who,
wants what they want when they want
rebel who will just do whatever. And also my drinking did not help. Helped my rebel. Helped my rebel just fine.
Yeah.
But so once I was able to control that, I was able to control my rebel more. But between my rebel and my critic, and me being the worst of the critics there could possibly be, my coach, it's like I actually had someone in my life inside of me who could be rational and think and like pull things together and be more like a science, like, well, let's look at what happened rather than being mean to myself. It's like, well, what happened to you? What were you thinking? What happened? How can you avoid that next time? And it was more like someone with a heart who was like, hey, be kind to yourself. Yeah, you messed up. It's okay. Whatever. Just and let's look at why and how can you avoid that next time. And like being able to talk to myself like that instead of like always in a very not nice way to myself.
Yes.
It was
I mean,
it was liberating.
Well, it is. And I think when you start talking to yourself like that and truly advocating for yourself with yourself, meaning against your critic, like saying, wait a minute, hold on, back off.
Right.
You're like, I've got this here. Let me, my brother visited me the other day, and this so reminded me of the critic and the inner coach. But my sister-in-law has been going to therapy, and she's learned some new tools. And her mom's amazing. Her mom is a lovely lady, but she tends to be a little like get into situation. Her mom's she's 86, 87, and her is 87. They don't live together and they're very frail. But anyway, he fell down. The mother came in and she just started yelling at him, like, why don't you have this? You don't have your medical insurance, rah, rah, rah. And my sister-in-law stepped in and go, Mom, you can take a break now. I'm going to talk to Dad. I've got this. And it was so much like somebody talking to the inner critic.
Oh, that's like, the coach.
You can take a break now, critic, because I've got this. And I'm going to talk to Maureen, or I'm going to talk to Rita, and we're going to figure it out. And we've got a better way forward. And when you have that, like that little superhero come into the scene and stand up for you, you're willing to take risks in life that you weren't prior willing to take, because when you think you're going to just beat yourself up because you did something wrong, well, how apt are you going to be to take a risk? Of course you're not. But if like, okay, worst case scenario is like, it doesn't go well, but I'll still love myself, and and I'll learn something new, who knows? It might be
it's like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Like, okay, well, here we are, new day. Be kind to yourself today. And what did you learn yesterday?
Yeah, you learned something. So what's so wrong with that? Yeah. So, well, good. That was such a great description of the inner coach, Maureen. Thank you for that. So are you beginning to see how all of these masters developed that inner communication system and have been keeping it going? This has been instrumental for their success. They didn't just use it while they were releasing the weight, but I believe we continue to cultivate and deepen that relationship with that powerful inner coach. Now, you probably have parts of your life that you feel really confident in, and my guess is the way that you communicate with yourself in that area of your life is deep and rich and far more better communications than in the area of weight if you are currently struggling. So you can shift some of that power that you have in those other areas and start to learn from the way you communicate there and start to really transition into a more respectful, connected way of communicating with yourself. So now Maureen is going to talk a little bit about the 3 C's that have kept her maintaining her weight through ups and downs on the scale.
It's not just about the weight release.
It isn't. And I know it's frustrating sometimes. And those of you who are out there and you're like struggling right now, like you're on a plateau or you're like, oh, this is, but you have to remember that this is really a relationship with, it is a hero's journey. It really is a hero's journey. And the hero sometimes goes through tough times but you get to the other side and you learn and you look back and you see, I did that. I got that. I own that. So having said that, Maureen, because you're now, 9 years into this, how is the journey now? How is like maintaining your weight? How is, all of that? How is your day-to-day life now? Like, is that a lot easier now than it was when you were, on your way down the scale?
It's somewhat easier because I already am down the scale, but when the scale starts giving me numbers I don't want,
Mm-hmm.
it stresses me out. But I just have to have faith, and I
Yeah.
have to the number one. Well, I have these 3 C's that I always go to whenever I'm like on the edge. It's
Oh,
like
share them.
commitment,
Mm-hmm.
consistence, and
Mm-hmm.
courage. Because
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of courage to, you know, put aside your immediate wants and, it's
Doubts.
not what you need, it's what you want. Just put that
Mm.
aside for a moment and find something else,
Yeah.
that you enjoy. Or like if I'm really like dying at night, like I'm so hungry and I just want to eat something, and whatever ridiculous thing I'm telling myself, because I'm not hungry, I just had dinner. I'll make a pot of herbal tea, like, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really filling.
Yeah.
Like you just have to, you have a ton of tools. You have all these tools that you can use.
Well, and you've
And
developed skills. Like, I mean, I think that's
yes,
the thing. It's like you've got a skill set that if you like, I would imagine 9 years in, okay, you don't like the numbers on the scale, but you also know I can take them off and I
I
know
know how
how.
to, I trust the process.
Yeah.
I trust the process, and I've made a commitment, and it's like, I can't make myself a promise and then not follow through, just as if I were doing it for someone else.
Right.
It's like, I promise you, I'm going to do this for you, and then back out. You just don't do that. So I don't want to
Right.
back out for myself.
Well, and so you were saying earlier, because I think it's helpful for people to know that, you aren't depriving yourself. Like you created a way of eating that you love that
Yeah.
allows you to live at your ideal weight. I mean, and that's
Yes.
quite an accomplishment.
Yes, it is. It is. One of the ways I do that is I'll plan for something that,
Mm-hmm.
like, I know, oh, I'm going to be having friends this weekend. I can't wait. And because I have like drastically cut back on drinking alcohol, I will only drink if people are there, and I will only have 1 or 2 glasses. And so I plan for that. I plan for the food I'm going to cook. And it's like, okay, then what am I going to do these days that I can save up in my fuel tank, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll have enough calories for that night? So I
Yeah.
do a lot of planning, because I don't want to deprive myself of being with my friends and enjoying myself. And, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to say, oh, you guys get to eat that dessert and I don't, even though I made it for you.
Hell
So,
no.
no.
I enjoy that dessert.
So, yeah.
That is so cool. So, an exciting thing is that our dear Maureen will be a coach for the fall 2022 shift, along with other coaches who have been keeping their weight off or are farther along on their weight journey. And here, Maureen will share with you a little bit about being a coach, not just in the shift, but for other people in her life. I know you've inspired others. You've inspired your sister, your friends. What do you like about coaching others? Like, what do you get out of that?
Well, actually, I feel more inspired by them than I feel
Mm,
like I inspire, it's the
mm,
other way around. I can see the way they feel at
mhm,
first. It's like,
mhm.
I've been there, done that, and so I can sympathize, totally sympathize. It's like, I totally hear you. What's another what's another thing you might try, so
Mhm.
that this doesn't happen,
Right.
But just seeing what people are capable of always inspires me. And every time I coach, it's like I've recommitted, because coaching is really for me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be really selfish here. I love coaching because it gets me to talk about, myself and hear about them and their struggles and how to get around them. A lot of problem solving. It's that coach. It's the inner coach, being the rational, scientific, but heartfelt person, inside of yourself that you keep trying to tap into.
Yeah, I love that about the Shift Weight Mastery process too, that when you were going through it and people are, what we call newbies are going through it and starting for the, like they're introduced to these concepts and the skills and all that. I'm so moved by their people when they get their own power and they really start to like connect to that. It's incredibly moving and it inspires me too. That's why I feel like I'm still in the game, is because of all the other people who, we have this motto, alone we diet, together we shift. It's like people get to see, one, that they're not alone, that there's other people like stuck in the same struggle, but that we're all really capable of being much bigger and bolder and braver than we think we are. And it helps to do it together. So, thank you for that. And last but not least, Maureen also had some inspiring last words.
No one's going to do it for you. You're the only one in charge. You're the one in charge, and you're powerful. It's hard to come to that belief, but it takes, and I said this earlier, that it takes commitment, so you really have to make a promise to yourself. You have to commit to yourself. And just as if you had made a commitment to someone else, it's like you wouldn't let them down. So you can't let yourself down, and be consistent about it, and be courageous. My 3 C's: commitment, consistency, and being courage. And to just trust yourself, be good to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. I don't know what else to say. These are all the things I'm always telling myself,
I love it, Maureen. Those are wise words. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maureen. Again, like with Janet and with Julie, it has been such an honor to know you and to see you every step along the way on your journey, go through all these different stages of your weight mastery journey and rise to the occasion and stay strong and stay mentally focused. You are such a leader in so many ways, not just in the shift, but in the classroom. Such a powerful teacher. So thank you for bringing your sunshine to the Shift Weight Mastery process, your own special blend of Maureen magic. So as you can see, everybody, that there's really some, if we had to streamline what we've heard here today, we've heard a lot of different things, but you can see how these people are standing in a commitment. It's a deep decision, not just to release weight, but to change their lives long term and to stand in that, to keep going, to have grit, to be resilient. It isn't just this short term thing. It is really a commitment and a journey and a relationship that you're cultivating with yourself. And then the second thing I would say is that they've really committed to developing themselves, developing the skills of weight mastery, especially those mindset skills of inner communication. You can see how important inner communication is to long-term success. And then the last thing I would say that all 3 of these powerful women have done is made it their own. This isn't, I don't hand out any diets. I don't say, do it this way, do it that way. I am just using the data, the studies of long-term permanent weight mastery and saying, here, this is what the, people have done for years and years and years. And let's take these, let's use our mindset, let's shift our mindset, let's develop ourselves in the skills of weight mastery, and magic occurs. Not because the process is magic, but when people bring commitment, when people bring an open mind and an open heart, and they commit themselves, that they allow their mind to be open for change, and they make those changes. That is what is magic. The human mind is magic. And when a committed human mind is focused, there is nothing more powerful. So now the Shift Weight Mastery process is now enrolling. The online process is over 30 days. It uses hypnosis and coaching to get a deeper impact. And like I said, the brain gets stuck and it needs a deep rocket launch. Sometimes, haven't you ever said, God, I just need to blast my brain? Well, this is the brain blast. This process is it, along with the support from me, the love, the nurturing from me, and the coaches in the Facebook group, the live Q&A meetings along the way. And we're also going to be doing a special workshop called Carb Savvy, which is really about changing your relationship with carbs and food in general, so that, food either has power over you or you have power over it. And this workshop really gets into shifting that power game and having you be the master of sugar and carbs. It's not about not having those things, but it's having a powerful relationship with them where you are the one that is in control. I think that this process is a really great process for those of you who say to yourself, I want something better for myself in my life. And I'm not just in it for weight, but to transform my life from the inside out. So the link for more information about the program and the enrollment are in the show notes. There is a discount, there's $100 off, and there's hundreds of dollars worth of bonuses. So thanks again, anyone and everyone who has been on this journey with me. I want to thank and give out special love to some of those first shifters. Mickey Marafino was one of the first people who stepped up and said, how can I help you? And she helped me with marketing. Mark Shub also was so helpful with me. Deborah Madgett, who is no longer with us on this planet, who has moved on to heaven, was so loving. And so many of you who were there with me in the early days, believing in me and believing in the process. And you guys all truly, gave birth to what I like to say is our slogan, which is alone we diet, together we shift. There's magic in numbers. There's magic in the collective working together on a powerful journey, removing the shame, removing all the limiting beliefs and self-criticism, moving powerfully forward with support, a belief, and knowing that you've got this, that you have everything within you to be successful at long-term permanent weight mastery. You just got to unlock it within yourself. So thank you to everybody who's been helpful and who's been with us on this journey along the way. It's not just me. It is together. We are a community that create that. And thank you, Thin Thinking community, for being here as well. So everybody have an amazing week. I look forward to the next 20 years continuing to move forward with Shift in so many ways. I have so many plans, so stay tuned. Have an amazing week, and remember that the key, and probably the only key to unlocking the door of the weight struggle, is inside you. So keep listening and find it. Happy anniversary. Thank you for celebrating with me, and I will see you next week. You want to dive deeper into the mindset of long-term weight release? Head on over to www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's www.shiftweightmastery.com, where you'll find numerous tools and resources to help you unlock your mind for permanent weight release, tips, strategies, and more. And be sure to check the show notes to learn more about my book, From Fat to Thin Thinking, Unlock Your Mind for Permanent Weight Loss.